Epic Games versus Google. This is a lawsuit that has been going on for about a year now officially. Things were seemingly settled about a year ago, shortly after they started in December of 2023, but it's really not over. Things are still happening. I believe Google is working on some sort of an appeal process right now to it. And you might hear me say Epic Games versus Google, and you might be thinking, whoa, hold on, what about Epic Games versus Apple? Yeah, I know things can get confusing. Things are a bit complex in this world of Mordor, different side stories, different characters. The thing is, Epic Games versus Apple was like 3 seasons ago. You gotta get with the times. But yeah, I mean, Epic Games versus Apple was actually about 3 years ago. That's pretty much all said and done now. Kind of in the same way, though, with Epic Games versus Google. Basically, the whole argument that Epic is trying to make is that Google has a sort of monopoly on their Android app store, and they're using that monopoly to charge outrageous prices on that store. That's essentially the argument that they are making. It's actually kind of funny because just yesterday, I made a video about an ongoing lawsuit against Steam for basically this exact same thing. It seems that these kinds of lawsuits are kind of popular nowadays. A lot of people are alleging that these big companies, these big corporations have a monopoly on this market. So anyway, since this has ended a year ago, like I said, Google has been trying to do a sort of appeal process, and it would seem, at least according to Microsoft, that part of this appeal process is actually very much hurting them, as they have actually been trying to launch the Xbox app on Android devices, but allegedly they are not able to do just that. So the lawsuit ended about a year ago, but then in October of this year, so about 2 months ago, a US court did issue a permanent injunction which basically stated that Google, they had to allow third-party app stores on Android phones and Android tablets, and this officially went into effect pretty much exactly a month ago from today, November 1st. But it actually seems like, from what I can see, this implementation was paused, allegedly, because of Google's so-called appeal process that they are allegedly going through right now. So Xbox's president, Sarah Bond, talked about this on social media. She stated that the team was basically prepared to launch the app, so that basically the Xbox app could, I think, act as like its own third-party app, rather than having to go through the Android store. They said they had this all prepared, all for nothing, because now they can't do it, apparently, because apparently this is all on pause. And she's kind of saying that, Xbox is trying to bring, games to everyone, and Google is trying to halt that process. But Google kind of did a rebuttal here. They actually did respond to this. There was a spokesperson for Google named Dan Jackson, who came out and basically accused Xbox or Microsoft of, I guess, essentially lying. So Google basically is saying that no, Xbox has always had the right and ability to launch the Xbox app on Android devices, and they have simply chosen not to. And then he went on to say that the court is basically rushing Google and that they need more time to elaborate and provide a, quote, safe and secure experience. Kind of interesting, conflicting stories here, and I think the big thing, especially that you might be wondering right now, is like, why all this mess? If Xbox actually can launch their app on like the Android app store, then what is actually stopping them? I mean, that's kind of what Google said, what's stopping you? But I think, from what I know anyway, that's kind of Microsoft's issue with it altogether. They want this third-party app ability so that they can launch the Xbox app basically independently, so that you can purchase games on the Xbox app, like Xbox games. You can just basically buy them, and you don't have to pay the fee for Android, basically, that Android charges along with that. So essentially, if the Xbox app was ran through the Android store, Microsoft would have to eat some money, so to speak. They'd have to kind of burn some cost by forking over a ton of money to Google for basically hosting their app. And I mean, I'd kind of imagine that would probably lead to consumers having to pay probably more for their games. I think it would just be a mess. Because like, say for example, you're buying a new game for $70. I think that's what it is nowadays for big AAA games. Part of that cost is just having to pay the platform that the game is on. So maybe you're buying a game on Steam or Xbox or PlayStation. There's probably roughly about 30% of that purchase that is just going to them for hosting that. But also, if you bought a game through the Xbox app on the Android app store, you'd probably have to pay more, because you'd pay Xbox a fee, and you'd kind of have a fee also for Android. So yeah, essentially Microsoft would have to pay more money, thus raising their prices probably. So I think it'd probably be a lose-lose situation for everybody, probably except for Android. Android and Google in general, or pretty much any platform that would be doing just that. I think that's kind of, bringing it back full circle. I think that's kind of Epic's problem, not only with Google, but also kind of what they had with the Apple App Store as well. The issue that Epic is bringing with Apple and now Google, I think, in my opinion, is definitely valid. It is interesting that while this case against Google pretty much ended about a year ago, it's still kind of going on, and it's obviously very much still affecting other companies in other ways, like, allegedly, Xbox. Now we wait and see if Google ends up actually appealing something, and where that process will bring Xbox and other similar apps that are trying to launch not on the Android App Store, but through third-party sources on Android devices.